Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's edition of Intuitive Angling. And man, I really appreciate you guys coming by to watch the video and hang out with me for a little bit. Always appreciate that. Going to give you guys my competition day report for Truman Lake today. We had the BFL up there today. Just finished up with it just here a couple hours ago. Going to give you a rundown how my day went, and hopefully you guys can learn something from what I did or what I didn't do today. So we're going to get into that in today's video. Also, guys, just a quick reminder, you've heard me talking about this, but I just want to remind you about the Tackle Warehouse summer kickoff sale. You got a bunch of good Father's Day gifts there, a bunch of good summer fishing sales. If you guys want to check it out, I'll put my Tackle Warehouse link in the description of this video. And if you use and bookmark that link, that's a really good way to support the channel and help out here, and much appreciated by me and my family if you guys are participating in that. Okay guys, if you watch some of the stuff I did earlier in the week, you know, I didn't even practice for this tournament. I think this is the only tournament I can ever remember going to where I had no practice whatsoever. I had a bunch of stuff going on. You guys know that I lost my boat deal. So I borrowed a buddy borrowed one of my buddy's boats yesterday, drove up to Lake of the Ozarks to get it, got everything rigged out in it yesterday, and went up there and fished the tournament cold at Truman. Now at Truman, guys, we had sort of a setup just perfect for me in this tournament. We had a bunch of rain the last 2 or 3 weeks here in Missouri, and the lake has came up about 5 or 6 feet. So the lake was at 712, which put about probably about 3 foot of water in the bushes, which is perfect. There's a lot of bushes in Truman Lake. So my plan in the tournament was I didn't do nothing but flip. I put together 3 flipping sticks, and I was just going to totally commit to flipping. So went up there today, guys, and launched and everything, and I had no idea what the water looked like. I hadn't been on the lake, I hadn't talked to anybody, so I didn't really know what the water clarity was in different parts of the lake. And I'm pretty familiar with the lake, so I knew where there was a lot of good bushes at, but I didn't know the water clarity. So anyway, I started out, I ran up the Osage River a little bit, and I was first flight. I was boat 18, and I ran up there, and the water was really muddy. It's like the water visibility is like 2 or 3 inches visibility. And I felt that was still okay because Truman's a stained water lake anyway, and I've caught them there when they're that dirty before. So I started pulling a couple stretches, and I fished about probably 2 hours without a bite in that muddy water. So I told myself, it's like, I got to make some type of a move, some type of a water clarity move. So I ran out of the river arm there, and I was trying to find where the mud line ended because there was a definitive mud line. So I finally got out, and I started, I found out where the mud line was ended at, and I worked back there sort of up the Pomme de Terre River a little bit and started fishing. So I fished probably another couple hours, and just doing nothing but pitching and flipping. I was mixing it up between a jig and a worm and a creature bait, just trying to get something going, changed up colors, this type of stuff, nothing. So here it is, I'm halfway into the day and I don't have a fish yet. So I knew, and neither my co-angler hadn't caught one either, but it's like I knew those fish were there. It's like when you got 3 foot of water in the bushes in June and green bushes, there's going to be fish in it. So I started experimenting a little bit, and I had been fishing. I was trying to determine where the fish were setting up out on these bushes. So I started fishing point bushes. I started fishing the back ends of bushes, and it's usually one of the two, guys. Usually when you're flipping and there's flooded cover, the fish are usually on the points or they're in the back part of the coves and creeks. I couldn't get anything in there. So finally I started fishing like midway down the coves, which normally is not that good. So started fishing that, and right off the bat I caught one. Nice keeper, probably 2.5 pounder or something like that. And on that one I was flipping the Zoom Ultra Vibe Speed Worm on that one, and so got one in the boat there. And I've only got like 3 hours left to fish, and I started mixing it up and running good looking stuff. And finally I got to another area that was laid out like that, where there's some bushes just along a straight bank and halfway back in the cove, and I caught another nice one, another 2.5 pounder. So I've got like 2 hours left to fish. I've got 2 fish in the boat. So I started running that pattern. I said, well, I'm just going to run the way these bushes are setting up on the sides here. And I wound up catching 2 more keepers, guys. Finished out the day. I only caught 4 fish. They weighed 9.5 pounds, and I wound up finishing 30th place in the tournament. So which, obviously I like to finish higher, but since I didn't have any practice and I had my buddy's 35-year-old boat, I guess I'm happy with 30th place. But the good thing is I moved up to 18th place in the BFL point standings for the Ozark division. I'm in, I think, 13th or 14th place in the Toyota Series Plains division. So, I'm in, the top 20 in both of those circuits with no forward-facing sonar, no live scoping, total old school. So that should be an encouraging thought. If you're not a spotlighter, you can still be competitive, because I'm competing against some of the biggest hammers, the best anglers in the country here in the Ozarks. The BFLs here, guys, and the Toyota Series and the BFLs are just as competitive here as the Bassmaster Elite Series. We have hammers fishing this circuit, so I'm pretty happy being an old senior citizen geezer, non-live scope user, to be in the top 20 in the points in both of the circuits I'm fishing. But the thing about this, back to the tournament, is what you can learn from this. Here's the thing that's sort of like, that I'll give you a little bit of a high water pitching and flipping deal. The number of fish that actually move up into bushes and how many of them are there and the size of the fish, it's determined by a lot of different stuff. It's determined by how long the water's been up, how fast the water came up, what the water clarity changes are in terms of the departure from normal, and the type of cover available. So in this particular situation, the fish were in the bushes. I wound up catching 4 out of the bushes, only had 4 bites all day long, but they were scattered. The fish were extremely scattered. There wasn't a bunch of fish up in there. I really feel that most of the fish are deep right now. Probably a lot of the guys that finished in the top 10 in the tournament were probably spotlighting them. That's just what fish do in June. Even when the water gets high, they still move deep in June. But the thing about it is, like, one of the things that I like to do when I'm trying to determine how good of a flipping bite is going on in flooded cover is you have to get dialed into the bait. And I felt that I finally started getting dialed into it, because I fished a jig for the first couple hours, and even though it looked perfect for a jig, they just didn't want it. Then the next thing I moved to was a creature bait. They still didn't want it. So finally I wound up moving to that worm, like Zoom Ultravibe Speed worm, and a tube, a little bit slower, softer, smaller presentation. I downsized my weight. I put on a 3/16 ounce weight for it would fall a little bit slower, and I started getting some bites. And if I'd had more practice, or if I had any practice, I probably could have refined that, and I wouldn't have had to experiment. I wasted 4 hours today before I figured them out, because I would have figured that out in practice, but I didn't have any practice, so I had to figure it out in the tournament. It took me 4 hours to figure it out. Wound up catching 4 fish. If I'd have figured it out earlier, I'm sure I'd have caught a limit. But that's just fishing, man. You do the best you can, and hope for the best with that. But as far as how the fish were set up today, most of them were in the middle of the bushes and the thicker part of it. There wasn't any rhyme or reason as far as the specific type of bush. It was just the position of the bush that I talked about. They had to be in the mid part of the cove on a straight bank, which is usually, again, not the best type of areas, but that's just where they were in this particular situation. And I was really trying to isolate specifically the type of bush they were in, because sometimes they want a bush that is a certain size, or the complexity of the bush is a certain way, or the way it's positioned in relationship to bushes around it. But today there was just no rhyme or reason. I think that the fish are up there, they're just scattered, they're hard to catch, and overall it was pretty tough for me catching 9.5 pounds to finish 30th place in the tournament. So anyway, guys, that's the wrap up from the tournament here today, the BFL. We don't have another one. I don't have another one till the second week of September. That's our last BFL. Then we have one more Toyota Series at Lake of the Ozarks in September. But in the meantime, I'm going to be working on getting a different boat. I got to get a boat. I can't be borrowing my buddy's boat forever. So that's going to be the priority over the next couple of weeks, and I'll keep you guys updated. So thanks for following along. I really appreciate it. See you guys.